Hey friends, welcome back. If you are looking to have an overabundance of the humble yet incredible herb called comfrey, then look no further. Come with me today as I share with you how simple it is to propagate comfrey and why you would even want to. Okay, so in a previous video, I discussed how comfrey has a lot to offer in the garden, both with livestock and in the garden for its numerous nutrient benefits, not just for NPK value, but it has a whole host of other minerals that are wonderful for fertilizing the garden with. And I will be showing you that later today, one way to use it. Another way that we use it in the garden is as a ground cover, especially around things like fruit trees. We don't want those weeds overtaking. So first thing that you're going to want to learn is how to propagate this plant because it is very easy to propagate. All you need is one piece of root or one piece of the crown, and you can create a whole new plant, and from that keep propagating over and over and over until you have as many as you possibly could ever need. So order a crown off of online or maybe beg your friends and get one piece of the root. You can propagate off of a thriving full-sized plant. So I have an older plant here. It's about 3 years old and it has reached its full height of about 3 to 4 feet. And I'm going to cut back all of these leaves to very easily get to the crown. The crown is where we want to get. That way we can take the offsets, which will in turn create new comfrey plants. Now there's a lot of different varieties out there. There are some invasive types out there. This is not an invasive type, but it does spread, and that's great because you can get individual plants from that as well. Or you can be more efficient about it like I am and taking it from that center crown system. That crown, every other year or so, you do want to split this crown from the primary plant anyways, because it will keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's generally for the health of the plant that you cut it back. So we are going to divide this in about a third, or you can take up to 1/2 safely without hurting the plant. I mean, honestly, you could take more than that. Comfrey is really a very hardy and vigorously growing plant that can take some abuse. But for right now, I'm just going to take about half and keep those leaves and stalks because we are going to use that as a kind of green mulch. So now that we're getting closer to the crown here, I'm going to just very cleanly try and cut straight down through the plant, through the crown in the ground, and then loosen up the soil around it as deeply as I can so as not to cut off, the root at a critical point or anything, and not to do too much damage. And lift that out, and you will very quickly see on the underside the crown that we have cut into. The crown is that root system. It looks like a tuber, and from there we have our offshoots, and these are crown offshoots that will very quickly grow into their own plant. You could divide this up as many times as you can because that right there, that will give you a whole new plant, and you can divide this up. So even just taking one section of this crown will give you dozens of offsets to plant, which will become its own comfrey. So there's 2 offsets here. So there is the crown offset, which is what I'm holding, and then there are these, which are actually just roots. So there's 2 ways to do it. You can just use the roots, you can just use the crown offsets. The crown offsets will develop into plants quicker than the roots. So keep that in mind, but definitely keep the roots because that, again, if you plant that completely in the ground horizontally, will become a new plant. Or you can take these crowns and you just keep them about 2 to 3 inches, not too long because you don't want to stress out the roots. The roots can't support those leaves yet. You want to make sure they're only a few inches tall, and put the roots part into the soil a couple of inches and give it some water, not too much water. Give it some sun, not too much sun, and it will thrive. So the best time to do this is in spring, early spring. As long as it's not dormant and it's not too hot outside, the plant will do just fine. But you could also put these in pots if your weather is not ideal for doing this at the time. And also make sure to go in that ground. There's going to be loose bits of crowns that you might have missed, and just backfill that. Make sure you pack that back in with some soil. So in order to make use of all of these nutrients and minerals that Comfrey has to offer in the garden, we are going to place these around strategically our fruit plants to provide a ground cover to crowd out things like weeds, but also to do a green mulch, which you'll see here. You can have the plants growing right next to this tree and do a chop and drop mulch right there. So that will slowly provide nutrients for those plants as the leaves die back. So you can see how I've planted them just a few feet away from my fruit tree and how that plant is already growing new leaves after just 1 week. So there you have it, a simple way to propagate comfrey. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.